Welcome and thanks for joining us. My guest today is Steve LeFrancois, Chief Technology Officer, Public Sector at Verizon. I'm just going to jump right in here. Pick up newspaper and you see all kinds of news about this thing called 5G. So what the heck is 5G?
Yeah, it's fundamentally a different technology that's getting deployed. That's really built around business, not built around consumer consumption of bandwidth for surfing the internet. It's really about improving performance of the enterprise space. So think about being able to do things that you can't do today. So it might be not just wearing body cameras, but interacting with augmented reality for public safety personnel, being able to not only see people, but also identify and communicate back with their infrastructure in a much more rapid fashion.
So what does this mean for our listeners?
Yeah, you have to start looking at the network not just as a transport mechanism, but also about the intelligence that the network provides. So when we start talking about the spectrum and all the things that 5G brings, it's also about putting computing closer to the users. So you may hear the term intelligent edge, 5G coupled with intelligent edge, and also coupling that with artificial intelligence and machine learning. Is now from an enterprise perspective, you can drive that compute closer to your users and pull it away from your large data centers and delayer and de-risk some of the complexity within agencies' data centers.
So Steve, I want to tie into this concept of the future. If you go to Google, type in how many IoT devices will there be in 2020, Google will tell you like 5 times as many people are out there. And so how is this going to impact the federal network?
Yeah, so what you really have to do from an agency perspective is start to prepare for the volume of additional information that you're going to see across your enterprise. And when you start talking about readiness, it's about readiness with machine learning and artificial intelligence, and how do you apply it into your mission space. All of those things have to be looked at now so that you can improve and keep up with the availability of information and be able to do real-time processing to support the mission effectively.
I want to talk, Steve, about this amount of data on the network. So we have 5G out there. We have this concept called millimeter spectrum and a lot of things going on at the edge. You mentioned the edge earlier. So does this reduce the amount of data on the network, or can it, or does it increase it?
No, it potentially does significantly decrease the amount of data that needs to get transported across the enterprise space. And so as you drive more processing and more analytics closer to your users, you have that layer of intelligence, which is doing a lot of data reduction so that you can lower the complexity of the information that you need to bring back to your processing within an agency's data center.
Steve, tell me more about this millimeter segment, please.
Yeah, so millimeter wave spectrum is really the enabler for 5G from a frequency spectrum perspective. It allows you to do things, again, that you can't do in the 4G space because it gives you massive amounts of bandwidth, orders of magnitude increase. But you also have the ability to be granular in what you have access to. So you can also enhance the security by doing some 5G spectrum slicing. So if you have a particular application that for an IoT device and you want to have that as a higher class of service on a particular spectrum, you can do that with 5G slicing.
My guest today, Steve LeFrancois, Chief Technology Officer, Public Sector, Verizon. I'm your moderator, John Gilroy, on Get Closer to the Mission, Unlocking the Power of the Network, sponsored by Verizon on Federal News Radio, part of the Federal News Network.